entertainmentbuddha.com.
Dun, 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 dun. Da 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 da, wah wah wah, da 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 da, wah wah wah, da 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 da, wah 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 wah. Hey now everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Star Wars Time. It's Matt, it's Nick. It's all my little toys I'm looking at right now. I'm distracting myself. We're here to talk really about nothing but something, because there were a few official announcements this week, but really nothing of juiciness, even though that makes no sense. So that, you know what that means? That means just like last week, and hopefully you tuned in the last episode where we kind of just made up these 14 fanboy things, moments, whatever you want to call it, we wanted to see in Star Wars Episode 9. We're going to do that again on this episode of Star Wars Time. But now we're going to talk about I don't know, I didn't count the number, Nick, so I'm just going to say a multitude of moments, very fanboy slanted, that we want to see in Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian.
Yeah, we got about 10 or so little features that we want to see.
I'm glad you kind of eyeballed that up, because I don't even know if I could count it right now, to be honest with you.
But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can be in this show that we want to see in this show, so we just laid it out kind of like we laid it out Episode 9 style for you guys last week. And
pure fanboy. I mean, this is stuff, again, the shit we're going to talk about, these are things that people were probably thinking about for The Last Jedi, which ultimately made them hate it and want to kill themselves and burn the house of Star Wars down.
Yeah, see, the only difference is that, we have these things that we would like to see, all these stuff, items that we're going to go through. But then if they don't happen, we're not going to be like, this show fucking sucks, man. This is the worst thing to happen to Star Wars ever. It's like, no, you have to understand.
I have the ability to respect someone else's vision on something. At the same time, I also have the ability to say that their vision blows. I just did not feel that way.
Yeah, you have to be able to say that something sucks or something is objectively good.
But never will I be angry at a movie because it didn't play out the way my brain, especially for a franchise like Star Wars. Again, this is different. This is a different case. I mean, people don't get this crazy about, Hunter Killer.
Yeah.
Which is out now, and I just reviewed it. Check it out on entertainmentbuddha.com, youtube.com/entertainmentbuddha.
Or anything. Like, people don't get this crazy about anything, really.
But, I mean, that's because this shit's like borderline religion.
Yeah. Once you're a Star Wars fan, like, you're in it for life.
Yeah, you take the shit personally, but it's it's getting a little too far now.
Yeah, but in order to kick off the show with some real news, we dug up some stories from the internet. They're not huge, they're not earth-shattering Episode 9 news, but we got some news on a brand new animated series that's coming to Disney XD, and we also got some news on a movie that is not happening, nor probably was it ever happening. We don't know, but so we'll kick it off with some new Lego Star Wars series. It's called Lego Star Wars All-Stars, in fact. And it's going to be coming to Disney XD on October 29th. And basically what this is...
Actually, it's going right to Disney XD YouTube and then the Disney Now app on the 29th. I don't think it's going to hit the channel until the 2nd.
Yeah, let me see. I'm looking at the trailer
No. November 10th, the shorts are going to air. On
Disney XD. 30-minute episodes.
Anyways, we're getting brand new Lego Star Wars content. And I know a lot of you are probably rolling your eyes out there, just as Nick probably was when he heard this or when I pasted it into the chat. But I'm going to come out here and vouch for this stuff. I mean, even if you've played the Lego Star Wars games, you should understand the type of humor that those kind of packed in, and that's really what they've carried on with these Lego Star Wars animated series. That, the Droid's Tales. What was the one you brought up, Nick?
Star Wars Detours, which was
that wasn't Lego, but that was kind of a spin-off. But there's been, the Freemaker Adventures, yada 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 yada. There was one with young Han and Yoda, one-off. Anyways, there's been a lot of Lego Star Wars shorts and at times full-length episodes, and that's what we're gonna get with Lego Star Wars All Stars. We're gonna get 8 shorts and 4 30-minute long episodes that are going to air essentially starting Monday and rolling through December 8th. I mean, that's when everything eventually is all going to be released, and then it's all going to show up on the Disney Now app. But it's also going to be on Disney XD YouTube, the channel. It's going to be on the Disney Channel certain times. All the information is out there, especially on entertainmentboo.com. But Nick, I guess the thing I want to talk about is, is this something that even moves your meter, or are you like, yeah, whatever?
It's interesting. Here's the thing is, like, this type of content is really, it's like fun for YouTube clips, like, small YouTube viewings, but it's not really, at least from what I could see in the trailer, it's not really adding any new story. It's not adding any new content. Like, even the Freemaker Adventures did, where they added additional content into the universe. Like, this is just kind of recapping what we've already seen in kind of like a comedic Lego style. So,
yeah, I guess I see where you're coming from. So, I wonder if it is just going to be a Lego take on some of the more iconic scenes from the newer films. I mean, we saw a lot of Solo stuff. We saw a lot of TLJ. It was more of the newer Disney stuff. So
yeah, and it was, it was scenes. It looks like scenes that we had seen before. I mean, we see the scene of Han driving his speeder down the streets of Corellia. We see a scene of Leet and Lando driving the Falcon.
Dude, the more I think about it, that's really what a lot of these Lego Star Wars shorts or 30-minute episodes have been about. It's been comedic retellings of films for the most part. So I guess it does make sense that the trailer that they released today is essentially showing off the most recent stuff that hasn't been covered in a Lego Star Wars animated project yet. Because honestly, I believe at this point it's touched on the prequels, the original, and possibly even The Force Awakens.
Yeah. So
it's already out there is what I'm saying. Like, there's already shit out there that I do recommend watching, because while Nick is right, and it is, these things are more or less just recapping major events from shit we've already seen, they do it in a way that's very tongue-in-cheek funny. In terms of, it's almost making a parody of Star Wars itself and the moments that we saw in the live-action versions of what they're retelling.
Yeah, it's a cool way to poke fun at Star Wars as a Star Wars fan, or like as a Star Wars creator.
That's exactly what I was trying to say in a really dumb, long-winded way.
It gives the people who make Star Wars the opportunity to make fun of themselves in some sort of way. So it's kind of cool. And I mean, the reason I brought up Star Wars Detours is because this was if you remember this, I'm sure you can still go on YouTube and find the original trailer for it. This was a project that happened it's 2018 now. This probably happened in 2014, 2013. The trailer dropped maybe. That was essentially, what these Lego Tales are trying to do. It was a comedic retelling, or, putting all of your favorite Star Wars characters in these comedic fashions, in these comedic situations. And it was all done with this really funny animation style.
Oh, it's very stylized. Like, it was like, if you understand, the chibi art form, it was very big head, little body character type of look.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen that trailer, go look it up. It's hilarious. I mean, like, Leia is acting like a total diva in the fucking trailer, and then
I still want this project to see the light of day, but as Nick and I were talking before we went live, this, along with the Clone Wars proper, were essentially casualties of the sale.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Disney kind of swinging its dick out for the first time, saying, we kind of just want to start over with all our own shit. And that's why we got Rebels, to replace Clone Wars. And ultimately, I'm not going to say that's why we've had all these subsequent Lego projects, but, maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this show, Detours, was actually supposed to be written by Seth Green. I mean, Seth Green is famous for his work on Robot Chicken
it was very Comedy Central. Again, like Nick was just saying with Robot Chicken. Like, if you've ever seen that, you understand the humor of that, and that's essentially the same humor you're going to get in Detours.
Yeah, it looked really funny. I don't think we're going to get it again, and I really think that the reason Star Wars, Disney killed it is because, they were probably given the opportunity to take it, but then they said, like, we're essentially taking Star Wars and rebooting it. Like, we're starting it over, and we don't want, one of our first pieces of content to be...
I could almost see it, at least in the case of Detours, it being more of like, I don't know if we want to associate with this more adult-centric type of shit right from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, they were about to launch with a brand new trilogy of movies that are bringing in a brand new fan base.
Right, they wanted to suck in a new generation of kids, not us bozos that have been, Star Wars for 20, 30-plus years.
Yeah, so it's an understandable casualty. I really do hope it comes back in some form or fashion, but I think you're right, Matt. I think like these Lego projects and these types of animations are filling that gap in a different kind of way. It's pretty cool to see, though. I mean,
yeah. So the point being, this All-Star series, is free. I mean, it's going to be on the YouTube channel first, so you can't bitch about that. Because I know there's probably some of you out there like, I ain't pay for that shit. Like, all right, fine. Well, you don't have to. And I just give them a shot. I'm telling you, they're fun. As Nick said, yes, they're going to probably retail events. You already know. They're not going to add to the canon. But they're definitely going to be very cheeky retelling of these events.
Yeah.
Ones that can even get very old, cynical people that have seen the original trilogy movies probably hundreds of times each to laugh and be like, that's funny as shit. I can't believe they just did that to Palpatine. Or I can't believe Palpatine just emasculated Vader in that manner in Lego form. I mean, it's hilarious.
And it's perfect for something like, for you as a father, Matt. Like, this is something that you can watch with your
totally.
kids.
I mean, I'm gonna try to float this by the little one.
Yeah, so it's a perfect opportunity if you have
tell me to eat a dick and throw on Frozen, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot. But if you're looking for a way to introduce your children to Star Wars, I mean, outside of the cartoon series, the new cartoon series like Resistance, or the Forces of Destiny series that's already on YouTube, this is another perfect way to rope them in. This, Freemaker Adventures, there's a lot of ways to introduce Star Wars to a child who isn't really, ready to fully engross themselves in like the original trilogy.
Exactly. These are perfect for that, because just like the Forces of Destiny stuff, where they actually do add to the canon those. But they're kind of filling in the unnecessary gaps in the movies. Okay, what happened immediately after Rey found BB? Well, they did get attacked by that little thing that came out of the sand.
Yeah.
But this led to other things and this, that, and the other thing. Where these are just kind of very comedic remasters, if you will, of iconic scenes from the proper films.
Yeah, so it's a fun new idea. It's a fun new property that Disney's playing with, and I mean, they have the ability to do it through the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and
fuck it.
Stream
I mean,
it
that's the point here. I think is that the shit is available on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, and I mean, even for you guys who have the Disney Now app, like we said, it's going to be on there. I mean, but you can't beat free YouTube content that's Star Wars related. So let's just take it and be happy. But yeah, it's fun stuff. The trailer is posted up on entertainmentbuddha.com along with a little write-up giving you, some information on when all these episodes are going to air. So drop by eb.com and then you'll be able to
the important
find
shit is by the time you're hearing this, they're already going to be up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Disney XD YouTube.
Yep. So the next piece of news that we're going to talk
Actually,
about...
Nick.
Yeah.
You kind of reminded me of something as we were talking about that topic, and that's the fact that we're finally going to get a new episode of Star Wars Resistance this weekend.
Oh,
yes. This past weekend, probably for those of you listening right now.
Yes, this is going to be, the time where we're past episode 3, which was already released on the Disney Now app. So we're going to
dude, it's been weeks,
content.
Man. I mean, honestly, like we said, they blew their load. I mean, they released the pilot, which was essentially 2 episodes, and then episode 2 and 3. And now we're finally getting a brand new episode, and it's going to be called The High Tower.
Yeah, I almost need to go back and rewatch the first.
I know. I mean, dude, it's been over 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of content to catch up on if you haven't seen it already.
We'll definitely be breaking down the episode in the next episode of Star Wars Time, but just in case you forgot that the show was around because you were like us and you binged the first weekend and then had to take the last 2 off. There is a new episode. It's out there, and it's called The High Tower, and it's the first time the First Order is going to drop by the Colossus. So I'm actually kind of excited for this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to tie directly into, the mission that Poe gave to Kaz.
Right. I mean, it's the shit we were bitching about. I mean, I think both of you, when we did or both of us, when we did our review, we were like, we really kind of liked it, but some of the episodes felt like it abandoned the main charge here, which was, what's going on with the First Order. Let's kind of keep this shit tied to the movies.
Yeah, specifically episode 3 had a bit of a deviation there where we learned a little bit about Yeager's background, as well as, learning a little bit of history on Kaz and, the way that he views relationships. And it seems like he was a pretty lonely kid, which is why he attaches himself to anybody who kind of comes within his sphere. And that's why he got caught up in that little incident he did with Elijah Wood's character.
Yeah, he's a guy that just wants to be liked, really.
Yeah.
He just wants to fit in. I'm going out on a limb right now, and I think I put this in my write-up of this clip from the new episode. I think when it's all said and done, Yeager's going to be a bad guy.
You think he might be the actual spy?
I don't know, but I mean, there's times I'm also like, that's almost too obvious because he seems so obvious because he's not obvious.
Dude,
does that make sense?
I guess the way that I'm thinking about it is that he's got this weird backstory that we don't know about yet with his family. We know that his family isn't around, but we don't know whether his family is dead or is his family captured by the First Order and they're forcing him to spy on the resistance.
You know what I mean? And we know he was a rebel, but we also know he wants absolutely nothing to do with the resistance.
Yeah, and, as a former rebellion pilot and somebody who was passionate about, destroying the Empire, I'm sure he is not very happy if he is being forced to spy. He's not very happy about it, and he's also going to try to push away any kind of resistance or New Republic contacts that he has, which is why he was so insistent that he not get involved with Kaz when Poe showed up on the Colossus. So, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, is it going to happen that way? I don't know. We'll see, but it does kind of, at least within the first 3 episodes, fit thematically with what we're seeing. So it could be pretty interesting that way.
Yeah, so I mean, there wasn't much to get in outside of, if you're listening to this now, you might want to check your DVR or the Disney Now app because there's a fresh episode of Star Wars Resistance, which I am genuinely excited for.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of been like, damn, I wish I didn't binge it, but I had to binge it because that's what I do.
Yeah, they were fucking put in front of us. Like,
Right.
like
what
when
do
you
want
give
me to do?
me,
I mean, it's like I am a Star Wars crackhead. I mean,
yeah,
it's like dropping a fucking dime bag off.
yeah, it's like, look, when you
I'm
put
gonna
three
smack
episodes
that
there,
shit.
we're gonna watch it. When you put 3 brand new episodes of a brand new show up,
Yeah,
we're gonna watch all of them at the same, like, as
who
soon
you
as they're out.
kidding?
Like, come on.
I was still. I mean, it was great, but at the same time, I was like, what the fuck are these guys doing?
Yeah,
Isn't the point to get ratings?
I guess they just don't give a fuck any. I mean, like, what is? I mean, like, now ratings are probably
right.
you bring in downloads, you bring in stream views.
What does it matter? As long as someone is subscribed to cable and you're getting your cut of that cable package, who gives a shit?
Yeah, so no big deal.
Who cares
there.
if they're watching it through the app or actually watching it? Well, and that's again. I mean, this show it hilariously airs at like 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock on a Sunday night.
Dude, it's because that's like the no expectation zone. Like,
yeah, that's Fallout essentially. That's the wasteland.
Yeah, I mean, there's
TV wasteland.
If you're gonna throw that up at like prime time on a Tuesday, nobody's gonna watch it probably because nobody's letting kids watch TV on prime time on a Tuesday. But 10 o'clock on a Sunday, like nobody's watching TV. Kids are already in bed, getting ready to go to school the next day, so it's free for them to watch. But yeah, dude, let's just hope this episode 4 picks up this spy storyline pretty good, brings in the First Order like you said, and then we get some movement on the overall plot arc. So very interesting shit. Next story that we have before we jump into our Mandalorian desires is about a Mandalorian. Not really. It's not
about a wannabe
yes.
Mandalorian.
About a clone, and his name was Boba Fett. Anyway,
he's essentially a someone that prides himself in living a life of stolen valor.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, his father.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, he's donning a very sacred armor set to an entire race of people because he knows the reputation it brings. I mean, obviously he's copying his father, but Boba and Jango are not Mandalorians, my friends. I hope everyone understands that.
So, about this non-Mandalorian Boba Fett, prior to the last couple of years, when Disney first bought the Star Wars franchise, there was a lot of rumors about the movies that are going to be made. Obviously, people hit on a new trilogy coming 7, 8, and 9. We got that, but then there was already talks of spinoffs, and one of the spinoffs that was being talked about was a Boba Fett movie. And up until this year, the chatter about this Boba Fett movie had been very, very, prominent, and so much
so guaranteed, right? It was assigned to some decent director. Was it Shane Black or somebody?
It was James Mangold.
Yeah, there you go.
To be. So at one point James Mangold was attached to this film. So but apparently, according to Kathleen Kennedy, this Boba Fett film that was supposed to be is now 100% dead. And Disney is 100% focused on the Mandalorian.
So, I mean, I guess that sort of confirms that it was definitely a somewhat real thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably one of those prospective films that were being thought about pre-Solo, the way that that way I would think about it. And we know that there has been a lot of fallout after the box office failure of Solo. We already know of one confirmed canceled film that met its demise at the hands of the Solo box office, and that was what was being called the Tatooine Adventures kind of thing, the Adventures of the Mos Eisley Cantina, something like that, where you're seeing a lot of these scoundrel type characters go through that cantina, and it seems like this one could also be another casualty, because like we said, James Mangold was attached to this film at one point. It was before that, Josh Trank was attached to it. Like, he was the very first director that was talked about for Boba Fett, and then he got yanked off of it after Fantastic Four.
I mean, that guy hasn't made a movie yet, right? Since he melted down on that.
No, after Fantastic Four, I don't think he's done anything.
Yeah,
I mean, really, he's only done the only thing that he ever did successfully was Chronicle, and that just came out of nowhere. I mean, so what do you think that this was like another solo Fallout, or do you think that this was
totally.
just because I mean, I think like a movie like this would have been.
I mean,
awesome.
Unless this Eric Weber dude's just being, I guess, to him a good reporter and sensationalizing things here. The way I read this, Kathleen Kennedy just confirmed to me Boba Fett movie is 100% dead, 100% focusing on the Mandalorian. That says this was real. Now it's not.
Yeah. So that's what.
So you have to think that the whole Solo thing is a reason it's not.
Yeah, I mean, you would never think that Disney would choose or Lucasfilm would choose to stop production on a movie over a TV series, especially like a Disney streaming service TV series. They have enough resources to do both, and like we are in, like you said, from what it sounds like, this was already underway. Like this was, I mean, maybe not production wise, but at least was being actively talked about.
Well, I mean, it is weird because you would have to think that the fact that they're a go with this now and they're actually shooting, they've been developing this motherfucker for a while.
Yeah. I mean, the Mandalorian
but
TV
I
show
mean,
was definitely there for a while.
You can still interpret this as there was going to be a Boba Fett and there was probably still going to be the Mandalorian. And they may even have played into each other.
Yeah, I mean, this is another opportunity for the Star Wars movie franchise and the Star Wars TV franchise to kind of cross over. And you couldn't have done it
because there's going to be a fanboy topic Nick and I are going to talk about that involves this man.
Yeah.
This Boba. This clone fuck.
I mean, right now, we don't really know what's happening with Boba Fett in the expanded universe. I mean, I think there's a novel that talked about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can save it for when we get there, but teaser, as it stands now, the motherfucker's dead.
Yeah, he hasn't crawled out of the fucking Sarlacc pit yet.
In the rebooted canon, I believe the motherfucker's dead.
Yeah, I'd have to confirm and see if he was included in any of the any of the comic book arcs, or if there's
he's been, but early stories like New Hope, Empire era. I mean, there hasn't been any solo Boba runs to my knowledge.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, I mean, canon literature right now. In the Star Wars comics, Boba Fett discovers the identity of the pilot who destroys the Death Star.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like I said, I mean, he plays a role in Vader learning who Luke was.
Yep. Everything else that has been done about Boba was in old canon. So,
right.
I mean,
so, like I said, I mean, the motherfucker's dead in this new canon. So, no, we'll talk about when we get to Mando, which we're essentially getting into right now.
Yeah, but it is kind of shitty that we lose this. I mean, there's been no word on any of the other, possible spinoffs that were out there. I mean, for a while.
I mean, to me, a Fett movie would have been dope.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. There's a lot to cover there, especially if you go. I mean, there's.
I would have preferred very Clone Wars-y, tailish end right into the Empire era too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. I wouldn't want to see post Episode 6 Fett just because, I mean, that's not the interesting period of his life. I mean, the interesting period is how he got to become
it would have even taken place well before Solo. I mean, we're talking like still almost the Republic days.
Yeah, I want to see how he gained his reputation.
Well, they started laying a lot of it out in the Clone Wars, and they even showed at the last Star Wars Celebration, Filoni even pulled out like, "Yo, you guys were gonna see this if the shit didn't get blown up," and they showed how Boba gets a dent in his helmet, it's because he has a fucking duel with Cad Bane and fucking kills Cad Bane, but Cad Bane shoots him in the goddamn head.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's a huge part of his backstory, and also.
But he's still like maybe a late teen 20 at that point, not even.
Exactly. Like in Clone Wars, we saw him when he was a kid, and then like when he started to mature and stuff like that. But we didn't get to see him when he becomes the bounty hunter that we see in Episode 5. We didn't get to see.
Yeah, because back then he's still riding on his dad's rep. I mean, everyone's taking care. Like Aura Singh almost becomes his mom, because out of respect for Jango. I mean, Bossk, they all like just kind of latch on to this clone.
Yeah. So there was a lot of good stuff to be told in a Boba Fett movie. And
right. The character, again, through the fucking cartoons, my friends, this character who had maybe, 5-10 lines at the most in the motherfucking movies?
Lines? I don't even know if he had any lines.
No, he's no good to me dead.
Yeah, that's it.
There you go.
And, if you bring in, young
right.
Boba from
he had
the prequels.
2 lines.
Yeah, I mean...
my point being, thanks to the cartoons, he now is a fucking character. And don't you prequel motherfuckers even try to tell me that he was established in Attack of the Clones. You can go fuck yourself. Because what the fuck was that fucking dude? What the fuck was that Boba Fett motherfucker? You're going to tell me that's when he's established? Again, he says like fucking 5 lines in that shit, if that.
Yeah.
And they're all stupid.
He's just hanging out in the ship with his dad. And...
I mean, he's acting like a clone. Like, he's almost acting like a moron.
Yeah, I mean, the only part of that, sets up the established character of Boba Fett.
Him holding his fucking dad's helmet. That's
exactly.
the only redeeming... That could be the only redeeming shot in the entire fucking movie.
Yeah, I mean, that sets up a lifetime worth of angst and
But again,
anger
they pay off on that in the fucking Clone Wars. I mean, the motherfucker infiltrates the clone program just to try and murder Mace Windu.
I remember. I saw, dude, that episode was really cool because you get to see the training that they go through and all the tests that they put these troopers through and stuff like that. It was a really
no one had a clue. They're like, hey, he's just another fucking clone.
Because he looks just like him. I mean, technically, he is a clone. But
my point is, at that point, I mean, he's already whipping the Slave One, and he's being taken care of by Aura and all the other major bounty hunters.
Yeah. So I mean, it was.
I mean, so there's a lot of meat to Boba Fett. So this is a bummer, but I mean. Nick and I saw the writing on the wall. I mean, Nick was the first one to be like, my friends, Solo was a disaster. It's over. It's over.
I mean, I hate to be, that person, but I called it. Like, when a movie bombs like that, I mean, and it's not even a bomb. Like, it
wasn't a bomb at all, but it was a Star Wars bomb.
Exactly.
It was DOA.
Yeah, it was a bomb
they
in Star
fucked
Wars land.
I mean, you couldn't have fucked that shit up more than what Disney brass did to that movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you don't advertise a movie and you release it 6 months after your previous release.
I mean, all the way up to the lead up, we're going. Why are we sticking with the date? I don't get it. Why are we sticking with the date? Why are we sticking with the date? And in the end, the date in my mind is 95% of the reason why Solo sucked at the box office.
I agree. Just because I know too many people who've watched it and said, post theater release, like they've watched it at home, they've watched it on a plane, whatever, and they've been like, man, this movie was really good.
And
like,
you can't tell me if right now there was hype swelling for a new Star Wars movie, people wouldn't be way more excited than back in fucking May.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're talking a year removed now from TLJ. We're talking 6 months removed from Avengers, all that shit that went down in fucking April, May. I mean, Deadpool 2. I mean, people are ready for a blockbuster.
Yeah, there's nothing.
I mean,
now.
The biggest blockbuster we're getting is going to be Fantastic Beasts coming out in mid-November.
Yeah,
and it would still have a month clearance from that.
Yeah, and then what isn't Aquaman in December, but DC at this point.
But
is
early
almost,
December, and that I mean, at this point, it's nothing.
Yeah, DC is irrelevant. Like,
I mean, that might win its weekend just because it is DC and it's Aquaman, and it's December 4th. Like, who the fuck's opening then?
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, that's a one and done weekend thing. It's gonna make a nice shot the first week, and then, unless it's awesome, and then, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's terrible without seeing it. I want it to be good. Don't get me wrong. But if it's what we've been getting outside of Wonder Woman, I mean, the movie will probably win its weekend, and then it will fade away.
Yeah, probably.
So I mean, again, it's like why the fuck did they feel like Solo had to come out in May?
Yeah, it was just,
especially after the disaster production.
Yeah, I mean, there was too much wrong. There was too much wrong with the production. There was too much uproar over TLJ. There was too much around it. Like you said, you had Infinity War. You had Deadpool 2. I think Jurassic World was somewhere around there as well. Like, you had all of these movies that were in a very similar release window, and one of them was Disney's biggest property in the Avengers Infinity War. I mean, like, it was a nonsensical release. The people at Lucasfilm and Disney had their heads up their asses and didn't see the fucking writing on the wall, and they paid for it.
Just, I mean, this is the one time where you just pretty much have to say it's almost like greed or cockiness clouded some decision making.
Yeah, I almost think that
I almost think it's cockiness.
Yeah, like Disney had in their mind like they were gonna have a double billion-dollar release.
Star Wars, motherfucker.
Yeah, they thought that they were gonna have two movies drop within 2 weeks of each other, and both of them were gonna make $1 billion. It's like,
right. I mean, clearly, no one was expecting what happened with TLJ.
No.
I mean, I genuinely think going into the public release, even the critical release, everyone was like, Miller time, motherfuckers. We did it again.
Yeah.
We did it. And yeah, they did it at least from a monetary standpoint. But boy, oh boy, I can tell you right now, no one was expecting that fucking, even the little backlash that happened. And I am going to characterize it as little because I do believe, we now know that a lot of the shit was just all fucking bot driven anyways.
Yeah,
but I do believe a majority of people loved the movie, if not at least enjoyed it, had a few issues, but it didn't ruin their life. I mean, kind of like, basically there's people like me and people like Nick.
Yeah, I mean, and I still saw the movie 4 times in theaters. Like, it's not like I went into that movie and came out with a fucking X over all of my Star Wars materials and like was fucking burning Star Wars. He wasn't
burning jerseys or anything.
Yeah,
or socks or cutting fucking Nike.
Like, I guarantee you, the decision to put Solo in its release window cost them $500 million at the very least. That was an $800 million movie easily if you release it in the same window as you had done any other Star Wars movie. And that's me taking into account that one, every Star Wars movie that's released under Disney has made $1 billion, and two, this is the lowest reviewed Star Wars movie out of all of them. So I'm knocking $200 million off the top right now just because of that, and you still come in at $800 million. Like, that is the level that they've probably lost. I mean, it's insane to me that they couldn't read the writing on the wall. Like, you see the backlash. It may be small, but it's still, it was exploded. It was raised to a high volume, magnified because of the media. The media kept writing about the backlash and TLJ, and we talked about it for probably 3 weeks here, but it was all over the place, and you didn't give enough distance from it, and you didn't give the people enough time to come off of one release.
And everyone that's listened to this, if you're a recurring fan, you know me. I'm definitely not a fan of fake news and this, that, and the other thing. But I will tell you now. The fuck was that?
Oh, I think that's my phone ringing.
That was kind of trippy. I felt like Jesus was talking to me. Anyways, I'll tell you right now. the media is at fault for latching on to all of the vitriol and bullshit and running with that across the board. For Star Wars, for politics, you name it. They do it because they know that's what's going to fucking give them ratings and ultimately drive up their fucking revenue. And it's all bullshit. I mean, these motherfuckers, all of them, every one of them, CNN, Fox News, I don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter. They're all assholes. Like, they focus on the dumbest shit these days, like the sensational bullshit. That's all it is. That's all we live for now. All we give a fuck are about fucking clickbait. Clicky.
Dude, they run with anything that they know is going to cause a problem or, cause an uproar within.
It's horrible. I mean, it's like, even this week, like, oh my God, we can't believe, the bomb and this shit, and like, how could this happen and blah, blah. It's like, how it's happening. Report on why it's fucking happening.
Yeah.
You know why it's happening. Lay out the goddamn facts, examples. Give videos to the fucking idiots that can't fucking decipher facts for themselves. Quit fucking making it all like, oh my God, why is all this You know why it's fucking happening.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Anyway, we've gotten way off track. So
thank you.
Boba Fett movie's not happening. But in its place, Disney is now
Bob
focusing.
Iger. Let's release Solo in fucking May, even though we just fucking wrapped it in like December.
Bad move, 100% for sure there.
Idiots.
But
all right, yeah, let's get into some fun stuff. Let's do it.
So we know that Disney is now putting all of its focus into The Mandalorian, which is, the new story that's going to be told about a bounty hunter type character. Maybe we don't really know, but what we do know is that he wears Mandalorian armor, and
we would have to at this point. Should we at least accept that he's going to be a Mandalorian?
Yeah, I mean, calling
Therefore,
it the Mandalorian.
he's wearing his people's armor, which scumbags like Jango Fett and his son Boba Fett appropriated and turned it into associating with bounty hunter culture. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably the best way.
I mean, I was being a fucking idiot there, but I really think it is literal. I mean, I think this is going to be a legitimate Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's too obvious. Like, you put the name of it in the title, and I really do think that that's what this guy is going to be. So yeah, I mean, I really do think that this is a legit Mandalorian. I think that he's probably going to be related to Mandalore in some way. And yeah, I mean,
all right. So some of the things we want to see in the Mandalorian. Again, this is, if you listen to last week's episode, this is just pure fanboy rambling you're going to hear over the next, who knows, Nick and I, this could be the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, hour, 2 hours. You really don't know where we're going to go with this topic because it is purely speculative. So we're going to go through a list of items that we kind of agreed upon that we would love to see in The Mandalorian. I mean, it doesn't really have to be the first season. It could be throughout the series. I mean, honestly, we don't even know if it's going to have a second season. I would love for it to have a second season. You just don't know. It's got to get ratings. But does it? Because it's going to be on their streaming app? Anyways, let's get down to it. So, one of the first things, or something I would love to see in The Mandalorian, at least from a fanboy perspective, is seeing the man behind the mask.
Yeah, you definitely need to put some sort of face to the character. Maybe not right up front, maybe not in the first episode, but I think in the first season, seeing who this character is behind that iconic Mandalorian mask is pretty essential.
Well, you gotta. I mean, it was like, I mean, if you really go back and study Boba Fett as introduced, I mean, he's a nobody. I mean, he's honestly a zilch character. He was cool because he looked cool. Just like, Darth Vader looked cool, but, at least Darth Vader talked and shit, and we eventually found out he was pretty keyed into the fucking heroes. So we can't just have this Mandalorian character remain behind his, mask. We got to see this person.
Yeah.
I hope that's established early on. Like, I don't want this to be like, oh, it's like this mysterious Boba Fett guy. Is he fucking machine like Vader or whatever? I mean, that dude, that's shit I used to think when I was a little kid. I mean, all because of the mask and armors and stuff. I was always like, dude, are the stormtroopers real? Are they fucking robots like they're telling me fucking Vader is?
Yeah, I mean, if you hear the stormtroopers
Fett a
talk,
fucking robot? I don't know.
Yeah, and if you hear them talk, like they're talking through like the voice box or whatever, and it sounds like their voice sounds slightly robotic because they're speaking through the comm link and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's totally understandable to think that as a kid. But then with this character, I do think that like he needs an identity outside of his mask, and I think that can be a dangerous spot to stick yourself in, especially with a character like this, a character who's probably going to be defined more by his nature of being a Mandalorian than
totally.
by his character.
I mean, I envision this being almost like at least the Mandalorian himself. When he shows up, people are going to be like, a similar reaction to where a gunslinger would roll into an Old West town, where everyone would tense up real quick and be like, oh shit.
Yeah, like they see
this
him.
ain't good. This ain't good. Someone's probably about to get fucking popped.
Yeah, like he's going to be walking through, a market or, a bazaar on some planet, and people are going to start kind of like turning away and like, moving.
And again, I don't want people to be confused, and I know I'm even setting it up that way. Mandalorians aren't like just the race of bounty hunters. I guess what I'm portraying is they were known as a race of warriors. Think of them as these. I think I've made this point before. They're the Spartans of the Star Wars universe. They're the Spartans of Greece. I mean, they are a warrior culture.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're raised to be warriors from day one, and the weak are weeded out, and the strong survive. And clearly they become a little more peaceful and pacifist, but they were ultimately ruled by the Galactic Empire. So I mean, these are people that have been oppressed, and we now know that this is taking place 3 years after Jedi. So it's like, what are these oppressed warriors going to be doing now that they're, I guess, free again or not under the thumb of the Empire?
Yeah, and that kind of moves into our next point is, seeing Mandalore itself, the planet, not just, seeing some of the people or seeing this one character that's associated with the people, but seeing the planet and the people themselves as a whole, like we got to see in the Clone Wars cartoon series. And
it's kind of, at least the main city is very Coruscant-like in terms of the city itself.
Yeah, it's
very tall buildings. There's floating vehicles going around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really do think that in this, like you said, after being under the thumb of the Empire and after being controlled in that way, I don't think that Mandalore is going to look to jump into the galactic, the New Republic. I don't think that they want to be a part of it.
I don't think they give a shit.
No, they're going to try to separate themselves.
They were
like
never
they
even a part of the Republic.
No, they were always an independent system.
Right. Like, they remained independent through the Clone Wars.
So, I mean, yeah, and that's why you never saw, a giant faction of Mandalorians fighting for either side. I mean, if the Mandalorians did fight for one side, that would have shifted the fucking tide of the war pretty quickly because, like we were saying, they're some of the galaxy's best warriors outside of, the Jedi and the Sith. But
now, by the way, anyone that's interested in The Mandalorian, it is mandatory viewing to watch the Clone Wars and Rebels now.
yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of storylines, and
you have to. At least the Clone Wars. I mean, dude, the Clone Wars takes a pretty deep fucking dive.
Yeah, I mean,
into Mandalore and Mandalorian characters. But even Rebels, I mean, one of the main characters is a Mandalorian that's part of one of the main clans that's trying to rule the damn thing before, the Empire oppresses it.
Yeah, and that's kind of, one of our other talking points is seeing some of these, other, I guess you would say, these other plot threads from other TV series like Clone Wars and like Rebels kind of merge into this new show, and Sabine Wren would be a perfect way to bring
just going
that
right
in.
to Rebels. Sabine Wren and the Wren clan, I mean, I believe by the end of the series the Wren clan is essentially ruling over Mandalore. I mean, Sabine was essentially the ruler, but she left to go be with her rebel buddies and to fight the good fight.
Yeah, so
you would think if this guy's a true Mandalorian, he clearly knows of the Wren clan as well as Sabine. So, as a fanboy, I don't think we're going to see a live-action Sabine. I mean, so far the only crossover we've seen was a convenience in Rogue One where we got Saw Gerrera. I doubt we're going to get a Sabine in the show, but I would love to at least hear this character reference her, or he runs into someone that mentions her and he's like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, if this character is going to be linked to the home world, if he's not going to be like an Outlander or a loner, he would have to know of the Wren clan. I mean, and he might even directly interact with them in some way. Not Sabine, obviously, because she's off, but her mother and father. I really do think that the opportunity to bring in those plot lines and kind of intermingle them in with whatever this character's main threat is very possible. Especially, the Rebels plotline, which wraps up around the same time as this show starts, like we were saying.
You would think so. I mean, you would think it's almost lining up end to end, end to start.
Yeah, I think so.
Because they're saying this is 3 years after Jedi. Is that not when the Battle of Jakku took place?
It's 7 years after Jedi.
No.
I thought we read last week that it was 7.
It's 7 years after A New Hope.
Okay.
I just looked it up today.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm pretty positive this is 3 years after Jedi.
Yeah. So
this is like literally right after the Battle of Jakku.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then I mean, this is starting within the same year as Rebels is ending.
Right. I mean, again, the way I took Rebels ending was like this is like the end, not just we won the Battle of Endor.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the Battle of Jakku was the end. That's the end. Like that is, and if you play through the Battlefront 2 storyline after the Battle of Jakku happens, that is like the end of the Empire period. Like there are small break-off remnants, which we had talked about a little bit within the plot line or within
that's
the
when
set
they
picks.
finally are like they actually do surrender and say, okay, yeah, we quit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw a couple of like random stormtroopers in the set picks for the Mandalorian a couple of weeks ago, but there's not going to be any sort of heavy Imperial presence like there was in the original trilogy because the Empire has been defeated fully after the Battle of Jakku. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, I mean, again, here next point, following up with the Wrens, the Darksaber. Those of you that aren't in tune with Mandalorian culture, I mean, at one point in time they had Jedi. And their Jedi representative, I believe he was a master even, created this Darksaber, which is literally like this black hole style lightsaber. It's a black lightsaber that has a white glow. It could be the coolest. It is the coolest looking lightsaber.
It is. It really does.
I'd say it's that one and then Darth Vader's, at least for me personally.
Yeah. I mean, you don't like Mace's purple? You're not a fan?
No. Nah.
But yeah, I mean, like we've seen, and if you've seen Rebels, you've seen the Darksaber in action, I mean, we've seen Sabine using it and swinging it around, and it does have just an amazing effect and an amazing look to it. But I mean,
it's basically in Mandalorian lore, if you possess the Darksaber, you are the ruler of Mandalore.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has to eat it.
So and that is gonna, if we're talking about Mandalore and Mandalorian culture being a primary focus in this show,
even if he's going to find it, it's been lost or whatever. I mean, come on, Mandalore, the Darksaber.
It's all they have to be interlinked in some way, whether it be he's going to find it or there's somebody who's ruling Mandalore that has it. Will we see it in person? I don't know, but it is a legitimate asset to at least be brought up in conversation, in the show. I think that's a pretty easy thing to ask for. Do you think that that could be a thing though, that like he could be on a quest to find it, to recover it?
I'm trying to remember where it's at in this point in time. I don't remember if Sabine still has it in her possession or if she gave it to her brother or left it on Mandalore itself.
Yeah.
But at least halfway through the final season, she definitely was the keeper of it.
Yeah,
I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't feel like looking it up because the cat's basically laying on my hands.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think that's a legitimate ask. And, I mean, following up on that, I mean, I
would love to see a live-action Darksaber. I mean, that's really what this comes down to. Again, these are fanboy ones.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really cool. It would be really hard to pull off that effect that we saw in the cartoon series.
Well, yeah, it's not shaped like a lightsaber either.
No,
I mean, it's almost shaped like a katana.
Yeah, it's shaped like an actual blade. Like, it's not rounded. It's flat. It's like a flattened blade. And then when she swings it, it almost leaves like a trail, like a black trail behind it.
But it is a Jedi weapon. I mean, it was made by a Mandalorian Jedi.
Yeah. I think it would be really fucking cool to see that in a live action show. I do. I agree.
Totally. So the next one, and I think at this point I'm just going to throw this on every speculative piece we do because it almost fits with every one. But let's get some Thrawn and Ezra mentions, bitch.
I mean, if we're talking about this time period, we're talking about Mandalorian.
It still fits, right? Sabine's going, Ahsoka, they're going to look for him. I mean, let's go. Where are these people? We literally have two major Star Wars characters jettisoned into the unknown regions of space with no final resolution to their story, unless we're just to accept the fact that the space whales caved in the windows, so once they hit hyperspace they instantly died.
Yeah, but
the way it ends, I mean, she's like, I know you're alive, I'm gonna come get you.
Exactly. Like, why would you end the show like that if that was the case? Like, if Filoni told everybody like they're dead, it's not,
I would have bought it because again, I mean, I know we're talking Star Wars, but I even think sometimes Star Wars believes in basic science. If those motherfuckers go into hyperspace with no windows, I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we all know that Ezra is a Jedi, and Ezra might be able to do something for himself to survive for a little bit. But I mean, Thrawn is a guy, like, he's just a chiss. He has no force sensitivity. He's an incredible tactician. He's an incredible fighter. But
according to the latest Thrawn novel, I guess chiss were very well known force sensitive type of people when they were young, but they would apparently use these force sensitive chiss for a while, then kill them so no one knew or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the middle of the first Thrawn novel now, and it hasn't brought up anything about force sensitivity. I think it did mention that.
I guess it's the novel where it's all about where Thrawn meets Anakin and Padme and all this fun stuff.
Yeah, so that's Alliances. That's the second one, so I'm not quite there yet.
There's apparently some pretty heady stuff that goes down.
Yeah, so that should be interesting. But I don't think that, like, even if he does have a passive force sensitivity that he really hasn't honed, like, I don't think he could use that to save himself. Like, you couldn't pull, like, a Leia from TLJ where she was able to...
We're talking hitting hyperspace with no windows.
Yeah, it's like you're done. Like, your whole body is going to be ripped to pieces. That is the result of that right there. There is no coming back.
What are we talking about here?
But I do I agree with you though. Like, how do you write those two characters off that way?
I mean, we can't just let this stuff float, and that's why I just keep throwing it out there. Like, which show are they gonna pay off on this thing?
Yeah, and I mean,
because to me, the ending of Rebels was a big fucking cliffhanger.
Yeah, and I know you guys listening, you're probably thinking like, oh, well, all you want to see is Rebels connections. Well, I mean, there's a lot to be done there, but also what...
Yeah, but Rebels connects to the original trilogy, which connects to the prequels, which this is ultimately going to connect to the new movies. It's all a big symbiotic circle, like Qui-Gon used to explain about midichlorians.
Exactly. This is midichlorians in the works right here. No. But also what Matt and I want to see is we want to see the transition from animated to live action. Like, we want to see these characters, these iconic characters now.
Yeah, why not? If you can do it with crazy-ass Saul. I mean, literally, if you think about the live-action version of Saul, he's a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, like, the dude is literally, like, he's torturing insane. People in his basement, and, like, he's running
insane. But he even talks like even the people he loves, he talks to him like he's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, he's fucking nuts.
So, and I mean, we've already seen it go the other way. Obviously, we've seen live action characters,
and that was a guy like in a one-off fucking 3 mini arc from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when they announced Saw Gerrera, I was
like, who the fuck's that?
Yeah, like, I had seen all of the Clone Wars shows before, and, like, maybe the name might have rang something in the back of my head, but it wasn't, like, something that was forefront. Like, it wasn't, like, saying that, one of the prominent stormtroopers or clone troopers like Rex or Fives or Echo was going to be in live action. Like, it didn't occur to me that way. It occurred to me as, like, I think this guy was in Clone Wars somewhere, but he didn't play, like, a huge role. And he was very young. I mean, like, if you looked at the Clone Wars TV series when he was in it, he was a young kid. And when you see him in Rogue One, I mean, Saul looked like he was at least in his 50s. Like, so...
I mean, he looked half dead.
Yeah, I mean, not to me. Yeah, I mean, that, his age on top of the fact that he was missing almost all of his
motherfucking legs and shit. He was breathing through fucking respirator.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was essentially dead man. So, and then he did die at the, with the whole city of Jeddah itself. So, but
spoiler.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Rogue One yet, I mean, come on. But we do. I mean, like, we want to see these threads wrapped up because there's a lot of significance that lies within the characters that are a part of them. And we also want to see some of these iconic characters brought to life in a live action sense. I mean, it would be awesome to see a live action Grand Admiral Thrawn. It would be awesome to see live action.
If you're gonna take Maul from being cut in half live action to resurrected animated to brought back into live action, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything is possible, my friends.
Like, that was literally John Kasdan's, like, wet dream was to bring back Darth Maul into live action Star Wars, and he did. I mean,
Maul was literally severed in half.
Yeah, you saw his ass fall down the fucking tube.
It split. Even in a fucking PG movie, you saw his two halves split.
Yeah, and he bounced off the sides of the walls. Like, he didn't just fall straight down. Like, he bounced off of shit when he was falling. Yeah. Like,
and the motherfucker not only lived, but debuted in multiple episodes of the Clone Wars. Showed up in the live-action Solo, and then had his basically ultimate destiny play out in Rebels.
Yeah.
Over multiple episodes again.
I mean, it's
anything fucking happen, people.
So yeah, I mean,
that's why you gotta watch it. I'm telling you, that's why you gotta watch these damn cartoons now. And they're not damn cartoons; they're good.
They are. They're really.
Don't look at them like cartoons.
They're
they're not going to be as deep as a fucking movie, but shit.
You cover a lot.
Star Wars.
But, like, you cover a lot more ground. Like, in a movie, you're seeing maybe a couple of days play out, maybe a week or so. In these cartoon series, you're seeing years play out. I mean, from the beginning to the end of Clone Wars is multiple years. I mean, you get to see Ahsoka.
I mean, Clone Wars essentially picks up right after they start, and then it was supposed to dump it off right into Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, so
it was going to be, a 1 to 2.5 year period.
Yeah, you
I mean,
cover a lot of
Rebels
ground.
carried, I think, covered at least a year or two as well.
Yeah, so they cover a lot of ground. They fill in a lot of gaps, and they tell really good stories. So do yourself a favor and watch them. So the next,
I mean, the next one we kind of talked about, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit when we were talking about the movie, but we want to see Boba Fett come back because, like we said, Boba Fett is still technically dead. Like, in the new canon, he has not come back yet. There's been no official resurrection of Boba Fett, neither in the novels or the comic series. He's not been in any of. I mean, he's clearly not been in Star Wars Resistance yet, and even if he was in Clone Wars and Rebels, that is pre-Episode 6. So you don't have to worry about that. So Boba Fett's still dead, and we would definitely need to see how he comes back into the universe, if he comes back into the universe.
I mean, it would make for a perfect thread for this show. I mean, totally fanboy again, so probably not going to happen. But, I mean, could you imagine, like, this dude running into Boba being like, yo, bitch, why you besmirching my motherfucking armor, my heritage, you little cunt? Shit like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's got a boner for him, like, hey, you've kind of made us famous, even though you're not us.
Yeah, it's like, you may not be one of our blood, but
But your rep has essentially made our armor even more badass in the eyes of everyone in this galaxy. So
yeah. So
kudos.
what happened in the old EU? Like,
I forget, but I mean, essentially, he managed to climb out of the Sarlacc.
Oh yeah, well, he comes out of the Sarlacc, and he eventually goes back to Mandalore because that's kind of how it was back in the old EU, is that the Mandalorians looked down on his father heavily because he abandoned them, and essentially,
that was still before. I mean, was that still before it was established that Boba was a clone? I mean, there was all like this Concord Dawn stuff, and
yeah, I mean, at that point,
I think at one point in time, Boba was almost technically a Mandalorian.
He took over in the old EU. He took over as leader of the Mandalorians. Eventually, like, this is way down the line. This is when he was looking for a cure to the genetic disorder that was implanted in all clones to make sure that they expired, essentially, after a short period of time. So he was going through that, but then he also returned to Mandalore proper to make amends. I mean, essentially what he was doing, he was doing his death march. Like, he thought he was going to die, so he was going to all of these places and conferring with all these people to cover his ass. He goes to Mandalore. He finds out about another clone who had found a way to get rid of the disease. Eventually, within that storyline, he becomes the leader of the Mandalorians, making up for the wrong that his father had done there by abandoning them. So it was a really interesting storyline that played out. He also learned about his daughter. There was a lot of really cool shit that happened in that whole book thread. But would you be okay? So I don't know if we talked about it, but would you be pissed if this main character was Boba and he just was rocking new armor?
No. I think that'd be fucking awesome. Actually, I was thinking about it to myself.
I mean, because it's definitely possible, right? I mean,
why the fuck not?
I mean, I think it would be cool to see it. I mean, yeah,
he's still not a fucking Mandalorian, but I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it could tell a similar tale though, to where he wants to return to the culture that his father had once left.
But his father wasn't a Mandalorian either.
I think, was he?
No,
not?
He's not. I'm telling you, man. Jango is not a Mandalorian. They established that in the Clone Wars. I mean, one of the dudes literally says that motherfucker stole. Where the fuck did he get that armor from? Essentially.
Yeah.
They have nothing related to the Mandalorians.
I guess, like, yeah. I mean, I guess
even though they're written in the official fucking description of the show, the synopsis. They are not Mandalorians. The only thing they are Mandalorian at all is the fact that they copied their armor style.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, look it up. It's legit. Jango Fett was not a Mandalorian.
Yeah, I'm like reading a bunch of stuff on it now. I mean, like still in the. And I guess like that changed though, because in the Star Wars Encyclopedia from 2010, he's listed as a Mandalorian, but I guess like that's gone now.
Yeah, it's not. He's not. I mean, he's not. At least canon today, he is not a Mandalorian.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays it out. It's going to be interesting to see how.
But even with that being said, of course I would love if if I can pull off the helmet and it's Daniel Logan, all old Daniel Logan now playing Boba Fett.
Yeah, because we have no casting announcements for this show.
Well, I think there was a leak, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be Oberon.
Oh yeah, they did say
Pascal or what the fuck's that guy's name?
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
They did say that he was rumored to be the main.
Pretty sure
that's
going to be the dude. So.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really look like, young Boba, but
no, not at all. But I'd be cool if they said he's fucking Sabine Wren's brother.
Yeah, that's another option.
Because again, like I said, the Wren family, from what I believe, and I know I could look it up, I just don't feel like it. I'm pretty sure they were as close to royalty as you could get as a Mandalorian. Like, their clan was one of the top clans, and I believe they ruled.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for ties, man. I mean, I know you are too. I'm not yelling at you, so.
I'm hoping that there's some sort of ties here. I mean, I think
why not? I like those little lore nuggets. We've talked about lore nuggets before. We're all about lore nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, with this show, it's easy to make the ties too, because it's in such a rich, a rich time period where everything.
You're close enough to the OT where you can dive into that shit, and you're far enough away from the new stuff where you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. So there's
the other one, another kind of fanboy one. It ties into a lot of stuff we've already talked about, especially Maul, but. Yeah, maybe an episode or two, maybe a thread on Crimson Dawn or one of the other. What are some of the other big crime syndicates from the Star Wars universe? Like
Black Sun.
Yeah.
Black Sun Syndicate was one.
Right. So, I mean, it'd be nice to just see a skirmish, or maybe he gets a mission from them. I mean, who knows what the fuck this guy is? I don't want everyone to think that just because he is wearing Mandalorian armor that he's a bounty hunter. I mean, we don't know that. I mean, they aren't bounty hunters. They're warriors, but he could also just be a fucking vagabond doing whatever. He could be a mercenary.
Yeah, I really think that the most likely path for him is probably a mercenary.
Yeah. Merc. I mean, that would, to me, a Mandalorian is a merc, essentially. I mean, they're born to be mercs.
Yeah, I mean,
if they're not gonna do their thing on Mandalore.
Yeah, they're a gun for hire is probably
exactly.
The best thing for them. If
they're not hunting people down, but maybe they will, depending on the money. I mean, they'll pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah. So, I think that these crime syndicates would be an easy way to start building in. The ties that we were looking for, like doing jobs for random syndicates or doing jobs for like the Hutt cartel, which kind of goes into our next point, is seeing who Jabba the Hutt's successor
exactly
is.
So I mean, I do believe they establish what crime syndicate Jabba runs. It may just be the Hutts.
It was
to be honest with you,
it was the Hutt cartel.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
But we know the motherfucker, at least in terms of when the Mandalorian set, we know he's been dead for 3 years.
Yeah, and we also know
he had a son.
Yeah, exactly, from the Star Wars Clone Wars movie.
But his son was like almost somewhat of a good guy, sorta.
Yeah, he wasn't as, I don't know, I guess, like he wasn't as nefarious as Django. I mean, not as Django, as Jabba, for lack of a better term.
And I really think I'm making this up, but I believe the son is touched on again in Rebels.
I am not 100% sure.
Like I said, I think I'm totally lying.
I mean, there's a lot of different, in the Clone
Either
Wars,
way, I mean, the Hutts are clearly huge players in this galaxy's crime world.
Yeah, especially towards the Outer Rim, which we assume
Right,
is going to be.
this is, I mean, even just looking at the set, we're pretty much like, this is either fucking Tatooine or Jakku. So,
exactly, yeah.
If it's Tatooine, we know that's basically Hutt Central.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a
who took over for Jabba? Who's in the palace now? I mean, who's sitting on that throne?
What was his son's name again? I don't even remember.
I forget.
Let me see. I'm gonna look it up. And I know
Squishy the Hutt.
there was a thread in Clone Wars about Zero the Hutt, but he ended up getting killed.
Yeah, Zero gets waxed.
Yeah, he gets killed, and then so his name was Rada the Hutt.
There you go. So bring on some Rada.
Yeah. Other than that, he was not really in anything else. Yeah, we saw him in the movie, and that was the plot line that brought in Ahsoka and Anakin to save him, because there was like this. Basically, what they were trying to do was like the CIS, the Confederacy, was trying to. They were trying to like stage the fact that the Jedi had taken Jabba's son and stuff like that, but then. What's his name? Anakin and Ahsoka went to go rescue him and return him to Jabba, and that's how they made peace, is because he was rescued and returned to them, and that's why the Hutt cartel didn't pledge fealty to the Confederacy of Independent States. So that was that whole storyline. If you hadn't seen the fucking Clone Wars movie.
Yeah, so I mean, who's there? Is Rod up in that piece or not? I'd like to know. Who knows?
Yeah.
It makes sense, but again, it's fanboyish, so probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Next one.
Next up, yeah, we have Wedge, or maybe a second tier rebel hero. I mean, that's a legitimate kind of.
Yeah, we're not getting top tier, clearly.
Yeah, no, you're not going to get
we're too
Luke
close.
Skywalker.
We're not going to see a Luke, a Han, a Leia. I mean, get the fuck out of here. I would be surprised if we even get a mention about those motherfuckers. They're essentially the Beatles. Right?
Yeah, I mean, they're off in a high tower somewhere.
I don't. But with maybe Wedge is kicking around in the desert town that the Mandalorian's in.
Yeah, I mean they got downtime now. I mean, especially a lot of the fighters, like Wedge or members of Rogue Squadron, Red Squadron, stuff like that. Like,
we know Wedge ultimately doesn't make it to the Resistance era, so I mean, what the fuck happened to him?
Yeah, he's got to die somewhere. I know that within the first. I haven't read it all the way through. Like I said in the previous cast when we were talking about Chuck Wendig, the Catalyst novels, or what was it called? I think that's
Aftermath.
Aftermath novels. That's what it was. In the Aftermath novel, he gets captured pretty early on. I think he escapes, but I'm not 100% sure. I mean, seeing somebody like him, or some of these other ancillary characters within the Star Wars universe,
fucking Nine Numb, or I don't care. Like, give me like some of these secondary, tertiary people.
Yeah, somebody that we'll notice. Maybe throw. You're not going to see anybody like Admiral Akbar or upper members of the Imperial.
General Nadine.
Yeah. Maybe we see some. Do you think we see any like former Imperial officers like Veers or something like that? Like,
did he end up living?
I think he did.
Who made it out of there? I mean, did Piet died, right?
Admiral Piet died.
Does he go down when it crashes into the Death Star?
I think so. General Veers was on.
Yeah, I don't think we really figure out what happens to him after the Battle of Hoth.
Yeah, no, like you don't see him get killed for sure, because technically the invasion of Hoth worked to a point, except they didn't see the ion cannons coming, and that's what got all the the rescue ships.
Right.
off.
I mean, yeah, they fucked him up pretty hardcore, but they didn't completely decimate him.
Yeah. So I think Veers might still be alive. Piet's for sure dead.
Yeah, they may be too random.
Yeah.
I think the point we're trying to make is we'd like to see some mentions directly back to some of the OT pimps.
I mean, do you know what would be really cool, and they could pull off if they wanted to, is you could put Yeager in it, and you could technically have him in two series at once.
Right.
I mean, you're so separated.
Yeah.
that
I mean that's perfect for this fanboy list. I mean, again, that'll never happen, but I mean that's perfect.
yeah, something.
So I mean that just leads into the next, really the last two. I mean, at this point, I was just throwing out, I want to see this person, this person, everybody, give me baby fucking Ray. No, but I mean, let's just throw it out there. I was like, bring on all the bounty hunters. I mean, we already said let's bring Boba back. All right, well, what the fuck is the disheveled Dangar doing? What's IG-88 up to? What's Forlom doing? What's Zuckuss doing? What's Bosk doing? I mean, Bosk had a heavy influence in Boba's life. I mean, what's going on? IG-88's been brought back in Forces of Destiny. I mean, come on.
Dude, I
mean, I feel like all these fucking jokers have perfect roles in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I mean, they could easily be woven in there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily like we saw with Boba, where they were bringing him up and teaching him the ins and outs of bounty hunting.
I'm not talking like casual reference, or maybe an episode plot arc, or they bump into each other at a bar and fucking Dangar looks at him funny. I mean, these could be fucking Easter egg shits, my friends.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for that much.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've already had the off mention
fucking cameos, dude. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, we've already had an off mention of Aura Singh in Solo, so
exactly. Yeah. I'd take that. That's fine. That's all I want in these shows, man. That's all I want.
I mean, and even if one of them is prominently featured in an arc, like if he's, if this guy is, say,
even better,
new to, or he's looking for a bounty hunter to do something, or he's trying to learn about something, and somebody says, well, if you want to see that, you really should go talk to Bosk, and then he goes out and finds Bosk in the, wherever, in the fucking cantina somewhere, and they have a conversation, then hell, that'd be fucking awesome. But if we're assuming that this character is going to play some sort of mercenary / bounty hunter role, then I think having these established names at least mentioned is going to be key. I mean,
even if he plays the hero to them, I mean, it just, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they could invent new interesting bad guys or scenarios to put him into, but it's like, every once in a while, why not just give us all that little tug in our balls we want?
Yeah,
give us that little rub, there you go, a little reach around.
Here you go. Here's a little bit of old.
Here's some of that. Here's some of that fanboy nonsense you guys feel like deserves to be in every new thing we put out.
Hey, yeah. I mean, you gotta
just a little stuff, like Nick said. Even if it's a passing fucking comment.
I think
like with that taken Solo. Oh man, he killed Aura Singh. Yeah, fell. There you go. All right. Well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Because that just tied her through the Phantom Menace, through the Clone Wars, all the way through fucking Solo.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, just
lore, people. That's
easy.
All we want. Lore nuggets.
Easy stuff like that. And then the last one on the list we have here is Captain Rex or Ahsoka. So we already know that Captain Rex has made it all the way through to episode 6. Like, we've seen...
He's in... I mean, technically, he is the old guy in Return of the Jedi. Like, if you go back and watch Return of the Jedi, there's going to be an old guy with a beard. That's Captain Rex.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that probably 2 months ago. That's, like,
confirmed shit. That's done deal. That's him.
Yeah, so seeing him brought back into this, that would be really interesting. I'd like to see how that interaction would go down, especially.
Yeah, he would be very familiar with that armor.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a theory that I kind of threw out, just not really thinking about it, but we know how many displaced clones there are now, and we know that a lot of the displaced clones are going to start looking for other homes, other jobs. And some of them will be able to find out who their progenitor was in Jango Fett, and they'll also find out about the, Mandalorian culture and stuff like this. So one of my questions was, could this guy be a clone? And if that was the case, a meeting with Rex would actually be very fitting, because you would have one clone talking to another, both of them finding, new lives in different ways.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting way to think about it, because again, if you watch the Clone Wars, you'll realize that even though these guys were all the same, they all ultimately formed very unique personalities, and they would actually mark themselves or give themselves nicknames to set themselves apart. So yeah, of course you could see a former clone going out there and donning some motherfucking Mando armor. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, these clones were raised to do nothing but battle anyway, so I mean, taking a job as a mercenary or a bounty hunter.
And thanks to the fact that Rex makes it the Jedi, we know that clones' life expectancy at least extends that long. So
yeah, so that would be a very interesting interaction if that were to happen. The one with Ahsoka, man,
she peels off with Sabine, so I mean, we can basically just point back to our argument with that. I mean, she would essentially be tied to her hip to hip.
Yeah, and I mean, she already has a lot of underworld contacts now as Fulcrum. So, I mean, if it happens that Sabine and Ahsoka are already, back from their, either they haven't gone on their ultimate journey to look for Ezra and Thrawn yet, or, they're coming and going, like they're making stops at like these outer rim planets before they go back out into the unknown regions or something like that. Like, it would make total sense for Ahsoka to come in under the Fulcrum name. She already has underworld connections that she's built throughout her time after she left the Jedi Order at the end of Clone Wars and throughout her time with
Here's
Rebels.
one I haven't thought about. What about Hera's son? Jason or whatever his name is.
Jason, Hera, and Kanan's son. That would be really cool. That
would get some Force action.
I was just gonna say, you bring some Force sensitivity in that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, she'd be up there too, but it's just like I never felt like, even though Hera was a main, she never felt like she was predominantly featured or given like a lot of her own story arcs.
Yeah, there was a lot of focus on. I mean, obviously you had a heavy focus on Kanan and Ezra because he was like
right, but even Sabine got a big one. I mean, Zeb was kind of like Hera, where they're there and they were important, but they were maybe given an episode out of 4 seasons to kind of show you more than just their basic character.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like to see.
I don't know. I feel like if you're in a series like that, especially with Star Wars, you almost deserve, if you're a character that's been in that many episodes or films, you deserve some sort of finality to your narrative. And that's why I keep bringing up the Thrawns, the Ezras, the Sabines, and now even the Heras.
Yeah.
I feel like just like now we know Luke, we're eventually going to know ultimately Leia, even though we know Han, we know Anakin, we know Padme. I mean, all these major characters, we know their ultimate fate. So, I mean, how can you leave like a character like Ezra just wide open, or Sabine wide open?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also because we know we got
Ahsoka,
burned.
for Christ's sake. I mean, she's now in more properties than fucking Luke, Leia, and Han.
Yeah. I mean, it's because we got burned with Clone Wars too. Like, we never got a finality to a lot of that. Like, we never got that ultimate ending that we're going to get hopefully soon within the new season that Disney's doing. Clone Wars ended because of a acquisition, not because, Filoni was ready to finish it. And
no, he's on record saying that's like one of the biggest bummers in his career was having to abort the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like, just a cold abort. Ended season 5 on a huge moment, huge cliffhanger, and just punt. Going to Rebels.
Yeah, I mean, and he put together a fantastic show in Rebels.
Fuck yeah, he did.
But he still left
arguably
it like
more
that.
impressive than Clone Wars, because he had to start with essentially all brand new IP in terms of characters, the mains at least.
You were building.
They wove in some existing people.
Yeah, when you build from nothing, like when you have to start with a main character that's not established, that nobody knows.
Dude, they built from nothing, and they had me crying by season 4. I mean, I was damn near wrecked during the Kanan sacrifice.
Yeah, and when you look at Clone Wars, it was an easy transition because you're taking your 2 prominent characters from the movies and you're bringing them in. Like, you have Anakin and you have Obi-Wan there, and then you also have all the other ones that people know.
Yeah,
Yoda,
that,
Mace.
and you had the benefit of creating a brand new female, interesting young lead.
Yeah,
I mean, the Clone Wars had everything going for it, where the Rebels was literally like, hey, it's gonna be set in this time frame, and you may see Leia, or you might hear like Luke's name said, but once.
Yeah.
But this is all brand new motherfuckers.
Yeah. So, the fact that he was able to build Rebels the way he did was fantastic. But then we also, I mean, like, ultimately at the end of it, we still have this cliffhanger type of ending where one of your mains throughout that whole show, his fate is unknown, along with the primary villain.
And that's my point. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like those characters in some format deserve some sort of finality. I'm not even saying it has to be death. It could just be like, hey, he's working on a farm with Thanos now.
Yeah, I mean, just to know what happened.
Okay, great. That's all I need. So.
Yeah, but it's just, to me, since you've had that arc started and finished within a cartoon series, it wouldn't do it any justice to wrap that up in a comic series or to do it in a novel. Like, I want to see that continued in some sort of live video format, whether it be animated.
And that's why this is Fanboy based. I think people's heads would explode if you brought out some actor that looked like Ezra.
Yeah.
Or some dude painted in blue with red eyes.
Dude, that's how you do it. Like, that is...
I mean, dude, people would literally explode.
Yeah, that's what sells... Like, you're selling a service here. You're not asking people to just watch a TV show on Disney.
No, you're right. I mean, I agree with you. I believe those type of reveals, at least monetarily, would be smarter to do in a series-based subscription model, because then you're right, they could hook them in.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it would be badass where they just fucking blow our stacks and we see something in episode 9, like fucking Ezra comes in riding on a whale and fucking cuts off Kylo's head. You know, we're all like, what? Like, what the fuck? Yeah. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, why not? Come on, people. We're asking you. We'll pay you.
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting you're not getting one movie ticket out of this. You're getting month on month.
Yeah, Nick's a devious motherfucker. I mean, he's looking for that subscription model.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is now. That's where the money is made.
He'll let you know what Ezra's doing if you pay him some money every month.
Yeah, I'll give you one episode a month. That's how I'll do it. You see episode 1 next month, episode 2 will come out. You got to keep re-ing up. I'm not going to give you Netflix-style drops where you can watch everything in one day. Like, you're going to have to come back.
Yeah, this is a true premium service.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it should be done. But I mean, I think all of these are very, like you said, they're very fanboy-esque, but they're not out of the realm of possibility. Like, we're not asking for fucking Luke Skywalker.
It's all stuff that I guarantee has probably been tossed around the writer room and either swatted down or embraced in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I mean, this is all...
Because in the end, people that work on this shit, they're just as nuts as we are.
Yeah, they're mega fans like we are. Like, we can say all this bullshit and nothing ever happens of it, but when one of the mega fans that works in the fucking Lucasfilm writing room says something, that shit makes it into canon. So all of this is possible. It's not like
we're by the way, if any of this does play out, we get credit for making it canon.
Yeah, I think so. We just refer to this. We upload this podcast. So we email it.
I mean, at this point, we can just start accusing people of stealing our ideas from the podcast.
Yeah, like we send this podcast to fucking Jon Favreau, and we say, "Look, we called this shit."
I mean, honestly, there are some sites out there would have ran with a lot of this shit as confirmed rumors. At least put it out there under the guise of this is just two fanboy idiots pretending to write The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, we could title this podcast.
I could very easily slap a title on this podcast: 14 rumors that could be true.
Yeah.
For The Mandalorian. I mean, that's what fucking people do.
Yeah. I mean, shit. People listen to be like, "Oh man, I hadn't heard this rumor." It's like, yeah, bitch, because we
why
just
not?
made it up.
We're gonna fucking see his face, and Sabine's gonna show up riding the Darksaber like a fucking Nimbus 9000, fucking playing Quidditch. It's like, I mean, that's what goes on these days.
Yeah. I mean, just go look at some people's YouTube channels. I mean, it's fucking crazy. What?
But anyways, that's not us. I mean, we still managed to fucking hopefully suck you guys in for damn near 2 hours, literally talking about bullshit. But that's what we do. There's a part of me tonight was thinking, you know what? We may actually get done in a little over an hour, but I was wrong.
I mean, we had a couple of detours here and there. And we had 2 legitimate news pieces to talk about, too. Yeah. So we had some content.
But we definitely had that Star Wars diarrhea running as usual. And it's been fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know I always enjoy it. I always look forward to talking to Nick every Friday evening to kind of spout off about the Star Wars universe. And 100%. One of these days I'm hoping to get a nice juicy nugget out of the Episode 9 set. But so far it looks like Disney and Mr. Abrams have figured out how to lock that bitch down, because it has been damn near silent outside of the first few weeks of basic leaks we got. So I don't know, maybe in between now and next time we'll get some new stuff. We'll run with that. If not, we'll definitely have a new fanboy centric discussion to talk about in the next episode of Star Wars Time. So in between now and then, may the Force be with you always.